Welcome to the Living Wholehearted Podcast, where we're helping leaders live with integrity.
Whether you're a mom or a CEO, you're a leader, and how you lead matters.
We're Jeff and Tara Mattson, and welcome to our first episode ever.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! We are ready to unpack what it means to be a leader, to have integrity, and the why behind why we started Living Wholehearted. Our passion to help bring relational wisdom in both the home and the workplace.
Yeah, so who are we as Living Wholehearted? Living Wholehearted is an organization, professional counseling and organizational development firm. We're based in Tualatin, Oregon, the great state of Oregon. And Tara is our clinical director. We've got an awesome team of 9 mental health professionals, and we call the counseling office our front door, right? The front door that leaders come to oftentimes to help deal with the personal issues, the people issues, right? That keep them up at night. I'm kind of the back door in providing organizational development and leadership coaching. I go into businesses and for-profit and nonprofit spaces and work with leaders and their teams on their turf. And it's an awesome experience, and it's a backdoor into those leaders' hearts and lives if they didn't come through the counseling office.
Oftentimes people will ask us, how does counseling and organizational development or consulting go together? And for us, it's a no-brainer because really, whoever you are matters. That's really what we're trying to impact. And wherever you are, you're impacting the system beneath you. So really, it doesn't matter to us whether you're at work or at home. Regardless of the work you're doing, becoming a person who's wholehearted and a person of integrity will impact every relationship in your life. It should impact every relationship in your life. So we're excited to be able to bring a lot of information over time to you. We're looking forward to being able to be Jeff and Tara with you. We're often, actually, let's start. Let's start with, tell us a little bit about what integrity is, Jeff. I was going to ramble there for a minute.
Do you want to also tell them about CG?
Oh, yeah. We also started something called Courageous Girls. Of course, I want to tell them about that. This is where we took all of the things that we do in the counseling practice, and we really wanted to bring that into the home with moms and daughters. There is so much pain happening, and one of the things we specialize in at Living Wholehearted is trauma. We're a trauma-informed agency that really comes in and helps those who are helping others. And as moms, there are so many women who have been asking for help, whether it's been bullying, the fear of anxiety, worry, the body image issues. There are a ton of things that we're scared of. And so we just thought, you know what, let's start moving into the homes and helping moms and daughters really become equipped to develop into these young girls into women who are resilient, who are confident, and who know how to have grace-filled relationships. It actually started in our own family with our own daughters. We've got 2 girls. They're tweens and teens. Mm-hmm. Our oldest is in middle school, and we started Courageous Girls back when she was in 2nd grade. I asked a few other mamas, and we really thought about the who. Didn't know them very well, but we knew that they had a little bit of faith, and they wanted to walk with some other moms too. And we started bringing conversations once a month together, really dialoguing about how does God's word really meet us in the humanity of where we're at and the development of where our girls were. And out of that, groups started forming all over the country. And now we have over 200 plus, and it's growing like crazy. We're so blessed. Jeff's been doing the dad side. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've written all this curriculum that's been being used, and it's exciting to see how that's making a difference. You're working on the high school stuff. The dads got involved, and it was easy for me to get involved as the other fathers. I'd see them on the soccer fields or at basketball or wherever it would be. We began to build relationships. And in that first year of Courageous Girls with our oldest, I thought, there's a contribution that we can make that only we can make as dads. Our voice, our relationship can't be duplicated or replaced. Same with moms. I mean, there's nothing that can replace that special connection. And I thought, well, what's an easy entry point for dads to get involved? And so we did a father-daughter camp out. And that father-daughter camp out, I love camping. I love the outdoors. Several of the guys do as well, but several of them don't. And for some, it was the first experience putting up a tent. And to do that with their daughter, the memories that we made each year now has been incredible. And we've been doing the same thing with our younger girls group, and they've just had their 3rd camp out. So it's been a wonderful ride. You'll have to check out more about Courageous Girls. That we're so excited about that movement.
Yeah, you can go to mycourageousgirls.com to learn more. Well, here's the thing. We work with a wide variety, whether it's been children, teens, or adults, couples. We work with betrayal. We work with sex addiction. You name it, we've been working with it over the last 20 years. And coming out of that, we've really understood that keeping the end in mind, what are those key parts of our story when we're younger that wound us and really shape a lot of how we do what we do today? We need to go back and be able to heal that. We also believe passionately in the way that we're wired and learning how to understand and appreciate God's design for us and really being able to learn to honor the way that others are shaped differently and wired differently. There's a lot of even just tools. I think we talk a lot about here's how a healthy person or a healthy family or a healthy work environment looks, but we're not giving a lot of tools on how. So Living Wholehearted really is about bringing the how
Equipping.
of relational wisdom. Yeah. So that's what we want to bring to you. Let's talk a little bit about defining integrity and leaders.
Yeah, it's so important. There's so many definitions out there, good working definitions for integrity. The way we define integrity is really that the sum of our parts. Think about our mind, our heart, our soul, our actions, our relationships, all these parts in our lives, these different components of the roles, the hats that we wear, whatever metaphor you want to use, really are moving in a singular and hopefully a God-orientated direction. We have a strong commitment to a biblical worldview, and that God is our compass, our anchor point, and integrity is really not having an incongruency between any of those categories. Now, nobody does that perfectly.
No.
I mean, only Jesus himself had what we describe.
I can attest to that in my own home.
Okay. All right. My turn. I'm going to get you back on that one.
I was talking about myself.
Yeah. Only Jesus didn't have what we call the integrity gap. And that gap exists. I mean, he lived a perfect life and he's our model example. And but the gap exists between the distance between the values that we espouse and the values we actually live and practice. That's the integrity gap. Everybody has one, no matter what you believe. And the cool thing is that no matter what you believe, integrity actually is something that people are aspiring to. And so we're on mission to help leaders, and we're putting ourselves right in the mix to shrink our integrity gaps. And it's a noble pursuit to do that. Every day of our lives, we can improve that process, and no one bats 1,000 on that. So when we take steps back, it's about turning and trying again. And it's a wonderful thing when you live and lead with greater congruency, greater integrity, and you live and lead wholehearted.
Yeah, and we really, wouldn't you say it's important to clear it that integrity is not perfection? I know you just said that, but there's some shame that comes alongside time when we say this and people kind of start to think about their own gaps. And the reality is that you have integrity if you're honest about your struggle.
That's right.
If you're willing to be open with a few others, that just shows incredible integrity. And to have courage to be able to step into those places to shrink the gap is really what we're all about. So you're going to hear a lot of honesty from us. Jeff and I have our gaps, and we're always working on being aware and letting others into our lives. But we're passionate about, again, leaders can't do this on their own. We have to stay connected in relationship. And even within the church, we often think that we can do it only with God's help. And we believe deeply in who God is and what he says about us. And what he says about us is that we're relational beings.
That's right.
We need people.
Yeah.
And even the neuroscience and the way that human development grows into healthy adults, or children that grow into healthy adults, is highly dependent on our relationships. So you're going to hear a lot about how to have those integrous relationships as well. Again, both at work and at home. And we'll be talking a lot about this Courageous Girls movement as well.
Yeah. I just want to say too that, I know what it's like when we think about getting to know us a little bit more. I know what it's like to be around and under leaders that had large integrity gaps. And it's important. Many of you that are listening to this say, amen to that. Yeah, I know what it's like too. Just as a point of reference, I mean, I went into vocational ministry, youth ministry, right out of college in undergraduate years. And I worked in a church. I was hired by a church in the Pacific Northwest, in a urban setting. And my immediate boss was a church administrator. And he had come 5 years prior to my arrival and had gifts of leadership and administration. He married a single gal in the church. I show up and he's my boss. And here's a guy that taught workshops on integrity. Well, one day, Steve didn't show up for work, and none of us could understand why that was. And to make a long story short, we learned that Steve had set basically the table to execute a plan as a professional embezzler. And he pushed play on his plan one day, stole all the money of the church, fled to Vegas, and left everybody hanging. And welcome to ministry.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, you remember that?
I totally remember that.
You were my female intern.
We were dating too.
We were dating,
yeah.
and I was like, Tara, help me with these girls. And we had a small youth group of like 14, and there was like, English was the second language for 12 of those kids. I mean, it was just, wow. So many things that we'll be sharing in future conversations come from some of that experience. But knowing what integrity feels, being under leaders that lacked integrity or had large gaps, we understand that. We also understand what it's like to be with leaders that are on mission to shrink their gaps, and they're living and leading well. Not perfect, but living and leading well. And they're teachable. They're growing. In fact, those are some of our favorite clients, right? The ones that check themselves in because they know that they want to keep growing.
Yes.
Whether in counseling or in the coaching space.
Yeah, absolutely. After years of being a clinician in the sacred places of that confidential space where leaders are being vulnerable, they're letting us into their marriage, into the struggle with their kids. I mean, we all hit that. We have our own gaps, and the key is us being honest. But at the same time, why we do what we do is because I personally am kind of tired of the wake of the lack of integrity. And I'm tired of the pain that it's causing. And we are wanting to be a voice for the voiceless, for people that are justifying, something that we've learned a lot from, I'll mention our friends at True Face and some others that are walking alongside helping others shrink their gaps. We believe that grace is not soft on sin. And it really is an ability to be able to call out where we're hurting one another. And to be honest about that, it takes an enormous amount of humility. But to also be trauma informed, it means that we can start wherever we're at. And most of us as leaders don't really know where we're at because we're too quickly moving, fast-paced, trying to be efficient, to get things done. We're task-oriented or we're goal-oriented, and we're really missing all the people in our wake that we're hurting. And also just there's a lot of things in our story that we don't take time to unpack, to grieve, to process. So that's been the work that I've been doing, is just really slowing down leaders and really helping them unpack the wad of emotions that we end up carrying over years and years, whether it's getting to the place of burnout, compassion fatigue. A lot of us start to feel like the whatever, we don't care anymore.
You've also worked with a lot of leaders that are kind of on that narcissistic spectrum, and
Absolutely.
their spouses are saying help, and that leader thinks everything's great.
And everyone loves that leader.
Whether male or female. I mean,
Yes.
It's like, and high level leaders. So leaders are our nut, right? They're kind of our nut. We know leaders are a type. We are two type of leaders. We're firstborn, and the joke is from our premarital counseling, the pastor that married us. Man, we were so excited, right? He said, "You guys got a lot of going for you, but you have this one thing." We're like, "What's that one thing?"
We want to fix it.
Yeah, we're on it. We want to own it. Tell us so we can master it. Yeah, and he said, "Well, you guys are going to fight. I mean, you're both strong-willed, firstborn, and passionate people, and that's true. Fighting isn't getting in fisticuffs. It's being passionate. It's volume. It's defending and persuading and influencing
and trying to hear each other's voice.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
we have to work hard to hear one another.
There's a little gap for Jeff and Tara that we've been working on our relationship.
That reminds me, I'm going to tell him a little bit. We have this thing where we're telling our children, in the car on a road trip, and it's pretty starting to get feisty, but it's also the quality time that we have together. to talk. So we'll start talking about things, whether it's in our business or our home. And sometimes it gets pretty passionate and we're going back and forth. And so we've told the girls so they know that we're not fighting, but we're just saying we're having a passionate discussion. Well, what's hilarious about it is our daughters have owned that phrase, and they will now start using their voices with one another and passionately discussing something. And we might interfere and say, hey, girls, can you guys slow down and kind of, talk kinder to each other? And they're like, Mom, Dad, we're not fighting. We're just having a passionate discussion.
Oh, God.
So you got to be careful what you're modeling, right? But so we just want to thank you for joining us. And we're so excited. Jeff and I are, we've got a list of people we're going to be interviewing. We've got a lot of things we want to unpack with you. If you're passionate about shrinking your own gap and you want to increase your relational IQ both at home and at work and impact the lives that are following you, then follow us on social media and subscribe to the Living Wholehearted Podcast with Jeff and Tara Mattson. And until next time,
be the leader you would want to follow.
Thank you for joining us in being a leader committed to shrinking the integrity gap between the values we espouse and the values we actually live out in practice.